So, the end goal for our little alternative theater club is to make a play that'll overshadow the official theater club's inevitable next play. So for that, we'll need to plan ahead and come up with some designs for the set, costumes, and of course, some sort of story, I guess.
I was under the assumption we could just make Boon Canon the musical, but considerably better and perhaps more lore accurate, male lead and all, you know.
I would love to show those school-sponsored nobodies how it's done, to be completely honest. But I only went out of my way to adapt Boon Canon because the school essentially forced me to. Since the Alt Theater Club is run outside of the school's jurisdiction, our play can be about whatever we please. In my honest opinion, Boon Canon is a mediocre story anyway, so I guess it's for the best.
Something tells me this statement is gonna get me in trouble with somebody, somehow, somewhere.
There was a reason I couldn't care less about being lore accurate, or whatever you chuds like to call it. Nonetheless, I'm not particularly brimming with ideas at the moment. I'm already planning out the sets, costume design, and perhaps what lunch I'll eat on the way home.
You don't even have a story yet. How could you already be planning the set and costume designs?
It's just how I like planning things. I'll do what I'm most interested in first, and we'll eventually figure out something with the story. In fact, I have a perfect idea for how to design the set. Catboy. Or girl?
NB.
Yeah, that. There's a closet on the other side of the school with some stuff we could use. Go there and fetch some supplies. Oh yeah, and before you go, make sure you don't tell anybody why you're getting that stuff. Otherwise, it'll cause me more problems, and I don't have time for stress like that.
Yes, ma'am. Working with her is gonna be a big pain in the ass. I wonder how much longer I can keep it up before I just fucking give up. Now that I think about it though, did she even clarify what supplies to get for her at all? Great. What the? Right, my commentary material creation powers that love working at the most random times. Well, you know, it wouldn't hurt to see what video I summon and perhaps commentate to entertain myself while I search around for anything worth grabbing, you know?
Inside, outside, say that there. Inside, outside, inside, outside, go Sonic. Inside, outside, yes, Sonic. I'm a nice and neat. So much I won't try to keep going out of
So, previously on the miscellaneous adventures of Lunatic the Game at School, I covered a fellow named Tony Sonic, a guy who makes CinemaSins parodies on Chari 5 CinemaSins parodies. One of these videos he made was a video on Chari 5's video going through the classic Sonic games, Sonic 1, 2, CD3, Knuckles, and Spinball. Now later on, a fellow commentator named the Efromitator made a commentary on that video. After that came a fellow named ShadowRuff777+, who made a sorta not reaction video to Efrom's video that's more so a response/commentary to Efrom's video. That's all you need to know. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin.
Bro, you need to go home.
The specific video I'm going to be covering is his Everything Wrong With on Shari 5's classic Sonic videos, in which he responds to Shari 5's videos on Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic CD, and Sonic Spinball. So with all of that said, let's get into this.
Why react to anything wrong with Shari 5, anything wrong with Sonic Classic games? Why don't you do with, you know, the first video of Tony Sonic, which he explained why he's doing it? I mean, seriously, it's right there.
Actually, I think I'm gonna stop you there. Using my convenient foresight, I can confirm that ShadowRuff doesn't really explain why this really means anything. Yeah, it's the first video explains why Tony Sonic is doing the whole concept to begin with, but no matter the reason, it's ultimately fair of Efrom to want to commentate on whatever part of Tony Sonic's series of Everything Wrong with Chari videos if he has problems with it. Unless there's a reason I'm not aware of, the answer should be pretty obvious.
I feel like I should make a joke about the Keen Master watermark, but I honestly can't think of anything.
Yeah, so what's the point of that? It makes sense to show us what he's using, mate. Seriously, what's a Cybertron? Also, what joke you about to use? No, seriously, what's the joke you about to use? You didn't comment that in the description, mate.
Okay, two things. Firstly, I think it's a problem with the giant watermark taking up the corner of the screen, and the fact that KindMaster is considered, or better yet, is a cheap free Android video editor that many use when they're getting their start with editing or can't get a better one for whatever reason it may be. Secondly, asking what joke Efrom's about to use when he didn't even know what joke he could make in the situation. Personally, with how you asked the question, I find that kind of funny, if anything.
Ow, my eyes! What do I even look at?
Okay, Tony, this display looks terrible. All you essentially did was just put your own sin counter at the top of the video, which is a bit of an issue because now I can't see Shari's sin counter. Wouldn't it have made more sense to change the resolution of the video so it could fit your sin counter as well as Shari's? Just saying.
Yeah, that is a bit off and confusing. Except his videos after this one, he did, explain that Shari's video sin counter is strangely off for some reason. Like, seriously.
Okay, to whatever extent Shari's sin counter is off, this is a problem with Tony Sonic's choice to display his sin count directly above Chari, so I assume that in spite of whatever this off thing Chari did is, Tony Sonic could still have found a way to work around that problem on his end.
Okay, I've heard several people complain about this part, but as someone who's played Sonic 1 a bunch, I've never had this problem, so what gives?
You've never had what problem? The only thing Shari said was that he personally felt the special stages didn't look very good. Are you saying you've never had issues looking at them? Okay, well, how does that disprove Shari's point? Especially considering Shari's point was entirely subjective.
Then you need a hearing aid practice clearly because he said,
Ow, my eyes, what do I even look at?
he is talking about his eyes are aching from the bright light from the special zone. You donkey.
I really like the implications of you telling Ephraim to get hearing aids for something that wasn't even said. Lovely. But essentially what I will say is that Chari did not in fact mention bright lights being the specific reason why his eyes were hurting. He just said, and I quote, "Ow, my eyes, what do I even look at?" We can easily assume that something, if not a couple of things in this special stage are hurting his eyes, but bright lights in particular were not brought up. Whoops.
So, wait, you give us this wall that we're supposed to roll into, but you didn't give us an easier way to dash while spinning into it?
Come on, that's more than enough space to work up a roll.
Really? Because the footage clearly showed Shari attempting to roll and only breaking through about half of the wall.
Yeah, but Chara 5 wanna go all the way through the wall, mate. Which, if you watch Tony Sonic's videos, you realize Chari is a big crying baby, mate.
Okay, so to paraphrase your argument, you got one good look at Ephraim pointing out how that was not, in fact, enough room to work up a roll and say, well, Chari is dumb and a crybaby. Was this meant to be an argument against Ephraim or just something you wanted to say? If the former, well, calling Chari a crybaby doesn't really do shit against his complaint. Essentially, it's just a souped-up ad hominem attack. If the latter, it's the same thing, but significantly more annoying.
So, wait, you give us this wall that we're supposed to roll into, but you didn't give us an easier way to dash while spinning into it? You put the special stage ring right after the goalpost, which takes away my control after I touch it?
It is possible to run back to it if you're fast enough.
Okay, I assume you're referring to that glitch where if you jump at the right time, you can walk around the end screen while it's loading the next level and while it's calculating your points and all that. And if that is what you're referring to, you do know that's a glitch, right? As in something the programmers didn't intend to happen?
As I said before, he is a big crying baby. He's bitching about it every time making a video, mate. Ugh.
Again, as I said before, not much of an argument. Simply insulting Chari only serves to make you look just a little petty.
Bro, you need to go home.
Cope? What, did you know I was having a hard time playing this game?
Chari points out things on the screen cliche. Also, you're struggling with Sonic 1? Sonic 1 is the simplest of the classic Sonic games. If you're struggling with this game, then you suck.
First off, nice elitism there, Tony Sonic. Can I touch it?
Really? Use the word turn for a female gay, mate? Really? I think there's a certain type of pirate doctrine. No, not that type of pirate. Nobody be cool at it. There we go. Well, how to talk to you, mate. Oh, and also...
Go to horny joke.
I know what you're thinking, audience, and no, I don't understand what's being said here either. I even turned on the automatic closed captions that were only ever accurate that time when I covered Metarunner, and while it helped me understand certain words that were said, I still don't understand what Ruff was going for here. I didn't want to make any jokes or drone on and on about your enunciation or the way you talk, because personally, I thought the former would be insulting and the latter just wouldn't be right, but I do have to ask you at least make sense with your jokes, because all I get is that because Ephraim's image has somebody pointing out that somebody is a lesbian, pirate dog
train? Or pirate doctrine? Essentially, whatever that is, it can talk to Ephraim because apparently Ephraim having the word lesbian on screen means he's horny? Even though lesbian isn't inherently a sexual word, it's just the word for a woman in love with another woman? Or at least that's the most basic definition of the word.
Second off, I like how you say it's the simplest, not the easiest, and then say it's an issue that Charmy is struggling with it. Again, even though simple and easy are not the same things. For example, the original Mega Man is an overall simpler game than, say, Mega Man 5 or 6. But most people would argue that the first Mega Man is harder than 5 or 6. Do you see the issue here?
Okay, I think we're enough.
Okay, why does Cybertron you choose Mega Man, the gun shooter game, as comparison to Sonic difficulty? You realize Sonic is a runner, which you had involved with the, spin attack, and Mega Man is a shooter, as in hold and shoot precision. Mate, seriously, you can compare it to another game that has similar to Sonic, but no, you have to go for the gunner type of guy.
Look, when the overall point is that simple and easy aren't inherently synonyms, pointing out how Mega Man and Sonic are different styles of gameplay doesn't really mean shit at the end of the day, it's just a random factoid. And even then, they're both still platforming games, just Mega Man games are run-and-gun platformers, while Sonic games are speed-based platformers. Different in execution, but with the same soul, but either way, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Now, you may wonder exactly why the left wants to spread this agenda. Well, it's because they're after this delicious boy pussy.
How the hell am I supposed to know to hold back in order to actually jump off this water slide?
You figure it out.
Well, I can't argue with that.
No need to sarcastic, mate.
Why not? Where's the rest of this interjection? Probably where my family is. Non-existent.
This game was made in the era where games tell you almost nothing, so it's our only option.
Yeah, and that led to a variety of highly cryptic games that were badly designed because of just how cryptic they were. Super Pitfall, Mylon's Secret Castle, Simon's Quest, all of these come to mind as examples.
Yeah, that is off. Except the Sonic the Hedgehog 1 is a thing since 1991. Meaning that it's, doesn't have the question mark games that the 3D game does have, mate.
I feel as if you're not fully understanding the point that Ephraim is trying to make here. Because the overall point that Ephraim is trying to make is that just because these older games were cryptic and thus Sonic would of course be similar since that was the style of the time, it doesn't inherently mean that that time period excuses the cryptic nature of those games. I think your point is you trying to say that, well, of course, Sonic was made in 91, so it didn't have the hint system it would have in later games. Problem is, that isn't really arguing with anyone except Chari, I guess, but I don't really believe that's who this point is directed at, since from the sound of it, you're saying this to Ephraim. But this doesn't really mean anything against him, however, so ultimately I'm just left wondering what you were trying to achieve with this point.
This isn't really a boss battle, this is just platforming.
I mean, you still have to hit Eggman, don't you?
No, you don't. You just have to survive the gauntlet and make it to the capsule at the end of the stage. You don't have to hit Eggman a single time to beat this boss. In fact, it's not really a boss so much as it is more an obstacle course, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you had a point on the, not really a boss fight, but a chase one. Exit is a YouTuber who, listed as, being a part of a boss battle. No, seriously, check it out, like.
Well, yes, it is a boss battle, but the point Ephraim and Chari by extension are saying is that it doesn't feel like one. Ephraim says it's more of an obstacle course and Chari is saying it's just platforming. Pointing out how somebody has it listed under Sonic 1 boss battles isn't really doing anything against that because it may be an official boss battle, but they're trying to say it doesn't feel like one since the focus isn't actually damaging Eggman, but surviving a platforming section.
Sound produce? I don't know vegetables make sound in this game.
Heh, funny. But seriously, typos aren't sins. They're nitpicks.
Okay, first off, nitpicks are sins. That's kind of how this whole format works. You're supposed to nitpick the product you're sinning. Second off, why aren't typos sins exactly? There's still something wrong with the product that therefore could count as an issue with it, so why can't they count as sins? Like I said to Keyblade Master, nitpicks aren't wrong. They're just minor and usually irrelevant to the overall quality of the product.
Yeah, except ShadowRuff777 always, nitpicks anything on the games that he's doing. Mate, I mean, seriously, he does. He's misusing it, mate. He's misusing it, mate. How? I don't know why ShadowRuff777 is doing this. Nitpicks are not sin. Also, really? You still talk about the produce nitpicks, mate?
So I take this entire point as just, no, you're wrong, with the best counter-argument being, he nitpicks everything, which ignores Ephraim's entire argument. Which is that nitpicking is the point of the format in the first place, and that nitpicks are still criticism, just smaller ones that don't affect the overall thing being nitpicked. My point is that I don't really see what this argument you make sets out to achieve.
Discount Green Hill Zone.
Sorry, but that doesn't work since Emerald Hill is different in both looks and design.
How? They're both open green areas that exist to teach you how to play the game. They're also both fast-paced, and oh yeah, the second word in both of their names is literally the same. How are they different exactly?
Oh, I don't know, maybe, this, mate? Seriously, look at between them. One of them is mountain terrain with waterfall at the background, while the other is a lush green land. And yes, I know they're both called hills at the name, but doesn't mean you have to connect them as one. All Asian look at all countries look the same. You racist motherfucker.
Right, so one area of Green Hill Zone has hills and one area of Emerald Hill Zone doesn't, therefore they are not the same. Take that, liberals. But in all seriousness, while Green Hill and Emerald Hill are not identical nor the same stage, Emerald Hill sets out to be Sonic 2's version of Green Hill Zone, which is clear from the way it's designed with the green plains, palm trees, water background, and the name Emerald Hill, as emerald is a gemstone that is green. So while perhaps Green Hill is more hilly than Emerald Hill, and yes, Green Hill has waterfalls and Emerald Hill apparently doesn't, it does actually, there are still various similarities within the stages that help Chari and Ephraim's point.
Okay, how is that a boss?
Because it still attacks you, even though it's really slow, and you still have to attack it.
Wait, so your definition of a boss is just something that attacks you and something that you have to attack? You do know under that definition, basically every badnik in this game would count as a boss, right?
Oh boy. You need to stop compare one word or place or something that is out of order as same, mate. Stop that. Seriously, stop it. When he said it attacks you, Tony Sonic referred to the boss fight, not the Batnik fight. You know, these little robots.
Yeah, we know he's talking about the badniks, no need to show us and say, you know, these things. Whatever, you're kind of missing the point here. Ephraim is criticizing the way Tony Sonic defines this boss battle, and argues that by his logic he can even call the regular generic enemies boss battles. What I'm trying to say is that by pointing out how Tony Sonic is specifically talking about boss battles, you don't understand that Ephraim is trying to say that his definition makes everything come off as a boss battle.
We are really fucking fairground and just bust out of the wall. I have very little time to react.
You really expected the bad guys to play fair? Not to mention the wall he breaks out of is colored a bit differently, which could tip you off.
How dare he want the game to have fair level design? Is it just me, or does this sound less like a response and more like apologetics?
No, because Tony Sonic is act like a father to Clervals who act as a teenager, mate. A whiny, brat, stupid child that doesn't grow up, mate. Who doesn't use bro attacks in Mario and Luigi? Doesn't use bro's attack in Mario and Luigi games.
I feel like something important is being said here, but I for the life of me cannot understand him under his Daft Punk filter, so TLDR, watch Hunter x Hunter 99. Chilling out of the way, I lied. I do understand him, but from a logical standpoint, I still don't get this. Because seriously, this is a similar case to a while ago. The whole point is just, well, Chari is a crybaby, and therefore he is wrong. ShadowRuff brings up some example of Chari allegedly not using the bro attacks in Mario and Luigi, but this doesn't really mean anything here, because even if Chari is some sort of crybaby, it doesn't make his annoyance at the fact that the level design has an enemy appear out of nowhere and knock him down any less invalid, because that's a fair thing to be annoyed with, because he felt he didn't have an opportunity to properly react to that.
Why are Sonic and Tails' names and faces plastered all over this casino? Do they own it? Who built this place? Nobody cares! Hey!
Nobody cares!
First off, lol XD funny media clip of SMG4. Second off, okay, so nobody cares, and therefore that's an issue because, again, the point of these videos is to be somewhat nitpicky. And even if you are right that nobody cares, that doesn't exactly prove Shari5 wrong. You do understand that, right? Of course you don't.
You idiot. Chari always question about anything, and Tony Sonic only sing him with that because Chari never shut up. Even Sonic 06, which you should look it up at today, you realize that Chari5 always complain about it. So yeah, Chari5 deserve that sin. you idiot.
Is this exaggerated anger, or are you really this pissed over Ephraim not agreeing with the sin? Because if so, that's really unnecessary and makes you come off as kind of an ass, not gonna lie. Ultimately, I'm not even going to bother with the rest of this point because it's basically the same as the last one and the 1-3 interjections before that. So if you really want my opinion, just rewind the video to those areas because the same argument applies here as it did there.
Oh, I guess there's just no boss. Act 3! What is it, Sonic 1?
While I will admit that Metropolis Zone is pretty hard by this game's standards, a third act isn't too bad considering it's the second last level of the game. No, Sky Chase and Death Egg Zone don't count as levels, more like chase sequences and final battlegrounds.
So, wait, Sky Chase doesn't count as a level because it's a chase sequence, so does the first act of Marude Saloon from Sonic Mania also not count as a level under this way of thinking?
I mean, if that's his logic, then no, because Mirage Saloon, or really Act 1 of Mirage Saloon, because in Act 2 this is not the case, it's basically the same thing as Sky Chase. Sonic and Tails flying on a plane to the next level. Now obviously that logic is very questionable, because it's not like you aren't doing what you usually do in other Sonic stages in Mirage Saloon Act 1 or Sky Chase, the only difference is that you're on a plane the entire time, but arguing back with, wouldn't that make this other stage not a stage 2? Wouldn't debunk it, it'd just be you raising the question. Now my question is, what makes Sky Chase just a chase sequence and not a stage? The plane? Because again, it's not like it plays any differently from the rest of the game aside from you not having any ground to stand on. Literally, of course, I should add. This, especially compared to the plane levels in Adventure and Unleash, which change the regular gameplay a lot with these shoot-'em-up minigames. Would the reason this is a chase sequence be that Sonic and Tails are trying to catch up with Eggman on a ship? I guess making this a contextual thing? In that case, what makes it so different from any other stage? Because that's what is happening in basically every stage. I guess just take out the ship. I'm going completely off rails here, but this topic wasn't brought up in Ephraim's video, and I'm really confused by the logic Tony Sonic uses here.
Oh, also, Shari's issue wasn't that the third act of Metropolis Zone was hard. I don't even know where you got that. It was that Metropolis Zone was the only zone in the game to have 3 acts.
Second of all, what chase section are you talking about? The only section we do is flying on a plane, get shoot out of the gun. Yes, there's a gun in the Sonic Mania, though it's not the first one, and fighting this caterpillar thing before it got shut down in the first act. In the second act, at the end of the stage, we fight a clone of Fang. Yeah, what chase level are you talking about, mate?
I am going to lose my mind listening to all of this. But okay, to re-establish Ephraim's point, because I sure as hell forgot it after hearing you go on and on, it's that by Tony Sonic's logic that isn't properly explained I might add, would Mirage Saloon also be a chase sequence given it is a similar stage because they're both set on airplanes? That is what Ephraim means by chase sequence.
And also, if you play Sonic Advance 2 Scrap Brain Zone, you have some struggle at every area that you try to, encounter with. I mean, for prime's sake, this bug really you in the worst way possible, mate. Seriously, did you even play Sonic the Hedgehog 2, mate?
I think you were, once again, misunderstanding. I think you think that Ephraim is saying that Metropolis Act 3 isn't hard when he's actually saying that Tony Sonic is acting like Chari was upset at the stage's difficulty when in actuality, Chari was just expressing confoundment at the fact that Metropolis is the only stage with a third act when the majority of stages have 2, with exceptions being Sky Chase, Wing Fortress, and Death Egg Zone.
What did you even think that laser was gonna do?
At least he didn't sit there like, oh, I guess it's time to die.
And? Do you actually have an argument against what Shari is saying? No? Okay. This video is terrible.
Well, if you pay attention to the footage you're using, you notice that Eggman is shooting. Meaning, he is moving. Try to hit Sonic and Tails, mate. In other words, you blind.
Why are you so mad? Did Ephraim eat all of your pizza and leave you with the bill or something? Because if so, I relate. But also, again, you were missing the point, which makes your anger that the more weird. Honestly, I don't even know where your arguments are coming from anymore, because at times they can feel so disconnected from the points being made by Ephraim. Ephraim is saying that Tony Sonic's saying, well, at least Eggman didn't just sit around and do nothing when Chari's sin was, what was that laser going to do, wasn't an argument against what Chari was saying. I think your point is simply a reiteration of what Tony Sonic was saying, that you should notice that Eggman is moving to attack here, so he's doing something, but this doesn't add anything. It's just reiterating what was said before, but with more words and less thoughts given. This video fucking blows.
I can't believe they expect people to beat 2 bosses in a row, one which takes 8 hits and the other takes 16 with 0 rings. Not one damn safety net.
Well, excuse the game for wanting to give you a challenging final boss. I know someone's going to argue with me on this, but to that I say, man up and fight the damn robot.
So your entire argument basically comes down to get good scrub. Okay.
Wow. Really? Really? As I said before, Chari is a f***ing Karen. He doesn't give a damn that the game is perfect. I don't mind some, but others...
Yet again, another argument that boils down to Chari is a crybaby, therefore he is wrong, because fuck not liking a difficult level that requires you win without taking any damage, something that may not be fun for everyone. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but did I just hear you call Sonic 2 perfect? You know, I'm not even gonna open up that can of worms, let's keep it closed. Fucking hate worms.
These special stages are disorienting as hell with their trippy-ass backgrounds and pseudo 3D.
Why would you focus on the background? That's not where the action is.
Because it's still part of the special stage, and it's incredibly, for lack of a better word, noticeable.
I think this part of the video honestly just speaks for itself and represents the soul of this video. Ephraim saying some of the most inoffensive things that somehow rile up ShadowRuff, resulting in generally non-arguments. No offense, I get this video is meant to be a reaction, not a commentary by all means, but when your response to something said is just shut the fuck up, here's a video of me slapping you, then you come off as incredibly petty, and for some audience members that might result in them thinking you're incredibly unlikable. If this was pre-2020, I would have probably been shouting at you to shut up because it's kind of annoying, but not only am I in a school closet right now, I also know that getting visibly frustrated at everything I don't like can make you look pretty bad. I'm just saying this anger is completely unnecessary, as is this point.
Now you may wonder exactly why the left wants to spread this agenda. Well, it's because they're after this delicious boy pussy.
This is factually the worst boss in Sonic the Hedgehog history.
Sonic 4's Metal Robotnik has entered the chat.
Quick question, how? The Metal Robotnik fight is at the very least a lot harder than the fight in Sonic CD that Shari is showing, if only because the Metal Robotnik boss can actually hurt you, while Robotnik in this fight has springs on his arms that can't hurt you. Now, I should note, this was most likely done because it's the first boss and it was meant to be a simple introduction to how the bosses in Sonic CD work. For those who don't know, Sonic CD's bosses are quite a bit different than the bosses in the other Sonic Genesis games. In a sense, the goal isn't so much to just mindlessly hit Robotnik 8 times, as it is to go through this almost puzzle in order to figure out how exactly to hit Robotnik. Robotnik usually only goes down in a couple of hits, but actually hitting him is much harder in every CD boss than it would be in even the most difficult bosses in Sonic 1, 2, or 3 & Knuckles. Sorry, I'm making a point more complicated than a simplistic quip, or, in the case of Tony Sonic, you argument. So, my mistake, let's get back to the video.
I'm about to argument at you. That was until someone respond in the comment, and guess who responded to it? Okay, maybe me, but guess who did it first before I did? Yes, it's Tony Sonic, and he responded from the Robotnik comment and said the Death Egg robot is one of most iconic bosses in Sonic history because it's difficulty. Yeah, it may be hard, but people love it because of that. Unlike Robotnik, Metal Robotnik besides, who so hard it's bullshit. So yeah, you triggered anyone by that, right? I mean, seriously, what the fuck?
You didn't realize it, but you stepped into the range of my stand. It's called a counter-argument. If that's a song that exists, hold up, let me look it up on Spotify. Ha! By the Halgoost. Let me give it a good listen. Wow, this shit's awful. Maybe I should rename my stand. How about Please Stop? I think there's a song like that by Bentelau. Yeah, good enough. Okay, but for such a long point, my counter-argument, or my stand, Please Stop, is pretty simple. The argument Tony Sonic is making in the comment is in regards to Chari's comments about the Death Egg being difficult, and he brings up Metal Robotnik, which is an example of what the Death Egg is not, unfairly hard. By the way, I looked it up and there isn't actually a Sonic 4 boss known as Metal Robotnik or Metal Eggman, just in case he meant that. I've just been assuming he's talking about perhaps a Death Egg robot Sonic 4 variation, since much of his criticism and description, as bare bones as they are mind you, match up with that one.
Now you may wonder exactly why the left wants to spread this agenda. Well, it's because they're after this delicious boy pussy.
Eggman made an insta-death laser that ignores my ring count and never uses it again.
Because he's made several superior machines since then.
Name one. Because the only other thing I can think of that Robotnik's come up with that ignores your ring count in any other Sonic game is the hand in one boss in Sonic Advance 2.
When Tony Sonic says superior machine, he refer robots that is surpass the original, mate. As in, out of the old and into the new, mate. That is way better. Bigger, better, faster, stronger, mate. I mean, in Sonic Advance 1, Eggman thinks that Beta is better than Gamma, and Omega is much more superior to the most of the E-Series robots. Are you saying these are not count as superior robots?
I should have made a drinking game out of the amount of times I make arguments that are just, you're missing the point, actually. Though to be fair, now that I think about it, I'm in school and I'm not even old enough to drink yet. Got 2 more years left in me after all. Point is, if Eggman made a machine so powerful that it shoots a laser that instantly kills Sonic, whether or not he has any rings, wouldn't it be more efficient than any of the machines he's made since that still has to contend with Sonic's ring count, thus making those machines not superior? Thinking about it, I envision there is a counter-argument against this, but neither you nor Tony Sonic give one that isn't, well, there's stronger guys out there, so I'm left to just agree with Chari and Ephraim here.
Now, you may wonder exactly why the left wants to spread this agenda. Well, it's because they're after this delicious boy pussy.
If and when you die, and trust me, you will die in this game, every path you unlock resets, meaning you have to unlock everything again. And you can say, oh, that's not so bad, it's just pinball. No, it is not. The objective of pinball is to score points, no more. Here I have to get emeralds, we should beat the boss, and move on to the next stage, which is impossible with a pinball platformer. And yes, you can slightly move left and right midair, but that hardly makes a difference if you're bouncing off shit all the time, picking up momentum every time you do.
A, this is normal for games that came out in the 90s.
What's normal? He listed like 3 things there. Do you mean there not being checkpoints? Because that's wrong. Most other games in the 90s did have checkpoints.
And I gotta stop you right there because Tony Sonic is referring to pinball games on the 90s.
Well, he didn't say pinball, he just said games in the 90s. He could have said games like this, games in the style, the likes, but he sure as hell didn't allude to it being specific to pinball games. Okay, I think I've seen enough. I've been at this for long enough, and using my convenient foresight, there really isn't anything else worth covering in this video, aside from the brief moment of ShadowRuff saying, do research, and I'm led to wonder how doing any bit of research would have helped any of the points Ephraim made. Otherwise, the rest of the video is pretty lame, but I don't feel like covering it. It goes without saying, but this video is pretty bad. From the amount of times you missed the point Ephraim is going for, the amount of arguments that are just, Chari's a Karen, therefore he's wrong, the amount of times you get needlessly angry over a dumb internet video. As much as I kept it to myself, this video absolutely baffled me to the point of often irritation. The anger is probably my biggest issue, even if my other issues are still big. Your anger is just so unnecessary, and I ask that if you ever do a video like this, downplay that shit. If it's for the sake of exaggeration, make it clear you aren't serious and are just playing around. Another issue I had was your wording and manner of speaking, but I assume this is due to a lack of understanding of the English language, perhaps because you're not a native speaker, you just have trouble with words. Therefore, I don't really want to dog you for that, but I will acknowledge that it did make stringing together points really hard. So if I misinterpreted your words, that's why, and I apologize for that. Otherwise, that's all I'm going to say. I don't feel like saying calling Chari a Karen is not a point, or you missed the point anymore, so I'll leave it at that. It goes without saying, but your video wasn't great. But that's not to say if you ever do this again, the same could be said for next time, so I wish you luck if you ever do this again. Truthfully. That's all. Great days. Alright, that seems to be everything that none of my business could probably use all good and organized now, though. I should probably ask for help getting this stuff to the auditorium because I ain't strong enough to get this stuff to the other side of the school.
I thought I heard voices in here. I told you, no vaping in school. Wait, who the hell are you? And are you vaping in here?
Slowly dying, yes, but surprisingly not vaping. Though, don't worry, I'm not going to be in here much longer. I was just asked to gather some supplies for the theater club set. That's all.
What? I could have sworn the theater club already came through here just a couple of days ago for Boon Canyon the Musical.
Oh, no, we did, but we needed more stuff, you know. You know how demanding our club leaders can be.
And I could have sworn Rita told me she was giving back a bunch of stuff she thought they didn't need for the set. Allegedly because one of their ex-members insisted they build the set as realistic as possible.
Well, you know, Rita just wanted the set to be less realistic, but still ever so slightly realistic. Right, you get me?
No.
Look, I already have enough stuff to deal with as is. Can we not do this? I just need to get to the auditorium before I get yelled at.
Okay. What's her name?
Luna.
I don't remember someone named Luna ever being a part of the theater club.
Oh, I'm not really a part of the club. I just volunteered to move their stuff, you know.
Oh, I see. Well, good luck with that.
Nosy. I should just message Joey so he can help me with this stuff. And while I wait, let's do a screenplay. So Nina thinks I'm talentless. Under most circumstances, I would agree, but I'd also rather her not be correct for once. So writing powers activate. Joey eventually showed up and he helped me haul all of the set stuff to the auditorium. It was a tiring ordeal, but in the process I managed to come up with a good outline for our play. Well, actually I just went on Wikipedia and searched for iconic plays and found Julius Caesar. After we were done, me, Nina, and Joey all parted for the day and went home.